If I told you that I showered 28 times a week, you would probably think I was pretty wasteful. But what you probably wouldn't think is that it takes nearly 500 gallons of water to produce a quarter-pounder hamburger. That's equivalent to taking an 8-minute shower 28 times. That's a waste of water. For the last year, I had given up red meat, including pork, veal, and beef, because I found about all the major health risks associated with eating red meat. But after researching for this speech, I found many troublesome facts about consuming red meat beyond health. Dr. Henning Steinfeld, author of Living Livestock's Long Shadow, a report by the UN in 2006, has said that the meat industry is one of the most significant contributors to today's most serious environmental problems. In particular, the production of red meat is the most destructive of any meat in terms of carbon emissions, land, and water usage. Today, I'd like to persuade you how consuming red meat is both harmful to the environment and our bodies, and I will lay out my solution and justify why there is a need for change. The Food and Drug Administration should regulate the consumption of red meat. By the end of this speech, I hope to convince each of you to stop eating red meat for the benefit of your health and our environment. Let's first look at how the consumption of red meat creates a harmful impact on the environment. One impact is the usage of water. You're probably wondering how I got that figure at the beginning of the speech about the quarter pounder. Well, according to a 2011 article in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, Arjen Hoekstra, professor of economics and sustainability at the University of Twente, stated that in the US, it takes over 1,900 gallons of water to produce one pound of beef. Not only do cows drink lots of water, but it requires large amounts of water to produce the feed to feed cattle. That 8-ounce New York strip you're eating is like taking an 8-minute shower 56 times. Additionally, red meat production contributes to greenhouse gas emissions by the transportation, waste, and feed production associated with raising livestock. For example, according to a 2011 report by the Environmental Working Agency, a nonprofit group dedicated to protecting human rights and the environment, for every pound of lamb consumed, about 40 pounds of CO2 is emitted into the atmosphere, contributing to the greenhouse gas effect. To put that in perspective, those lamb chops you ate emitted the same amount of CO2 that your car, an average gas tank, would emit if you drove it 43 miles. The consumption of red meat not only has an impact on the environment, but it is also a known risk factor for many severe health issues. One health issue that arises from eating red meat is heart disease. A 2012 article by Dr. Ann Pan appeared in the Archives of Internal Medicine showing survey data of over 37,000 people between 1980 and 2008. 5,900 of these participants died during the survey of heart disease. Based on the data they gathered, individuals who consumed one additional serving per day of unprocessed red meat raised the total risk of mortality by 13%, and those who consumed an additional serving of processed red meat, which includes salamis, bacons, and hot dogs, raised the risk by 20%. Another health issue that can arise from eating red meat is cancer. Ajit Varki, a professor of medicine at the UC San Diego, published a research paper in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences in 2003, revealing that there's a sugar molecule found in red meats that humans don't naturally produce. In response, the human body creates antibodies against the sugar molecule, causing chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is a known major stimulant for causing cancerous tumors. To help combat these issues facing our environment and our health, I have devised a plan that the Food and Drug Administration should regulate consumption of red meat. To achieve this, members of Congress must support a federal sin tax on red meat. For every pound of red meat sold in grocery stores and wholesalers, there should be a 45% tax. Furthermore, the federal government and the federal revenue gained from the red meat tax should go towards educational programs on climate change, healthy living, and diet. I know that my plan will work for one key reason. The reason is that the consumption of red meat will decrease. Let's look at the history and show the relationship between the tax on cigarettes and cigarette consumption. The first tax on cigarettes was in 1964, and consumption has gone down ever since. Even recently, a 2012 publication by the Congressional Budget Office projects that the share of U.S. adults who smoke cigarettes will decrease by 3% in the next 10 years, just under the current law passed in 2009. The red meat tax that I propose would create a similar effect in nature and would reduce the amount of red meat being consumed. The number of diagnoses of cancer, cardiovascular disease, and other health problems associated with consuming red meat would go down, just like they did when we reduced the consumption of cigarettes. Furthermore, there will be less meat being produced, and therefore lowering the industry's carbon footprint and depletion of natural resources. Conclusively, there is hard evidence that links red meats to both health issues and environmental harm. My plan to combat these issues will help conserve our natural resources and reduce the prevalence of health issues like cancer and heart disease. The FDA should regulate the consumption of red meat so that we as Americans can lower our risk for health issues and help protect the environment we love. Help me and go out and get your legislators to support a tax on red meat and start protecting your health, our environment, and pass up on that quarter pounder hamburger.